Putin volvió a romper su promesa. Dijo que expulsaría al ejército ucraniano de Kursk antes del 1 de octubre. Pero ahora el ejército ucraniano está firmemente atrapado en su lugar como un clavo. Sin moverse en absoluto. Sigamos. La perspectiva del ejército ruso y veamos su batalla en Kursk.
Especially in the front lines of Lushkovsky district and Kolenevsky district. Let's follow the Russian army's perspective and see their battle in Kursk. From the picture, we can see that the Russian army has adopted the classic tactics of drone reconnaissance and artillery strikes. In addition, the Russian army also used drones to drop grenades on the Ukrainian army. This tactic is also very common in Ukrainian army videos. In this picture, the Russian army also used BMP infantry fighting vehicles to attack the Ukrainian army. The Russian army said that the operation was a series of fierce battles in the Lushkovsky district, almost completely destroying the Ukrainian salient. At the same time, it surrounded the Ukrainian defense line near Liubimovka in the Kolenevsky district and occupied strategic locations such as Olgovka and Nizhny Klin. The main participants in the offensive were the Russian 155th Naval Infantry Brigade and the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, which broke through the Ukrainian army's defense lines in the Kolenevsky and Suzia districts and advanced towards Maloy-Roglok, Tolstoy and other areas. However, it can be seen from the pictures released by the Russian army that after more than 2 years of special military operations, the Russian army now does have a problem of lack of equipment. In combat, the relatively advanced one is the BMP infantry fighting vehicle. More shots show old Soviet-made weapons and equipment. Tanks have become a valuable resource on the front line, and even the loss of one will bring heavy losses. For this reason, the Russian army had to install barbed wire on the tanks to deal with the sneak attacks of Ukrainian drones. For example, this 2S3 Acacia self-propelled artillery was born in 1968 and has been in use for 57 years. Although it is covered with rust, it was still pulled to the battlefield by the Russian army. A 152.4mm D-22 howitzer is installed on its turret. When firing ordinary high-explosive shells, the range is 18.5 kilometers, and when firing rocket-assisted shells, the range is 24 kilometers. This indicator is far behind modern artillery. This D-20 towed artillery is also old. It was born in the 1950s. It has a caliber of 152.4mm and is equipped with a hydraulic buffer and an oil and gas recovery device. The effective range of firing ordinary high-explosive shells is 17.4 kilometers, and the range of firing rocket-assisted shells is 24 kilometers. In addition, the Russian army also used the Arrow 10 short-range air defense system to deal with the Ukrainian army's drones. This system was developed in 1969 and entered service in the Soviet Army in 1976. It mainly strikes low-altitude targets, such as helicopters and drones, through visual aiming and infrared guidance. When working, the operator needs to observe the sky visually through the small window of the shooting position, find low-flying targets, and track and lock the target through the optical aiming system or radar system. After launch, the missile relies on the infrared seeker to automatically track the target's heat signal and adjust the flight path until it hits the target. To put it bluntly, facing the low-priced drones, this Arrow 10 system is not cost-effective. If it continues like this, it will not be able to achieve the strategic goal of getting richer by fighting. The DIY self-propelled artillery full of Middle Eastern style in front of us once again makes people appreciate the creativity of the Russians. The Russian army directly installed a Zu-23-2 anti-aircraft gun on an armored vehicle. This anti-aircraft artillery was born in the 1950s. It was well known to the world because it was installed on Toyota pickup trucks by Middle Eastern friends. Now this Middle Eastern wind has blown to the Russian-Ukrainian battlefield. The urgency of equipment shortage has opened the minds of the Russian army and directly installed it on an armored vehicle, upgrading it to a self-propelled artillery. It can be said that the strong never complain about the environment. Moreover, the Russian army also thoughtfully installed a roof for the artillery and laid camouflage cloth to increase its concealment on the battlefield.
263.
From these pictures, we can see that due to the lack of air superiority, the Russian army had to engage in fierce ground fighting with the Ukrainian army. After more than 2 years of destocking, the main equipment that the Russian army now relies on is mostly old Soviet-made weapons. Although these equipment have gone through vicissitudes, they still play an important role on the battlefield. At the same time, the Russian army's equipment shortage has also prompted them to explore more flexible solutions. The widespread use of motorcycles on the front line is one example. These vehicles are light and maneuverable, and can quickly cross complex terrain. Especially in areas where equipment is scarce and heavy vehicles are difficult to reach, motorcycles have become an important tool for the Russian army to maintain mobility and supply lines. To a certain extent, this approach has effectively alleviated the Russian army's travel difficulties on the battlefield and accelerated their transformation into real motorized infantry. When using motorcycles to attack, the commander will carefully analyze the battlefield situation and then assign tasks one by one. However, as an offensive vehicle, motorcycles are bound to have an extremely high casualty rate. This scene does seem incredible. Can you imagine that Russia, the world's second largest military power, has transformed from a 60-kilometer-long steel torrent into a guerrilla force like Hamas in just over 2 years? The following is a video of the Russian army attacking the Ukrainian army's position. Although it is blurry, it is also a rare video of actual combat shot by the Russian army.
Давай, сюда. Да они в лесу сидят. Давай чуть-чуть поработай, чуть-чуть. Хорош, остановись. Танки пошли. Оба! Смотри, дальше напорник пошли. Прикрываем наших. Надо тот окоп еще досмотреть нам. А? Прикрываю тебя, давай. Переходи, Ангир, туда, перекрывай его, прикрывай. Вот и поработали. Вот и взяли опорник.
Finally, the Russian army also showed the captured Ukrainian equipment and the soldiers' badges. From these pictures, it can be seen that the Ukrainian army did suffer casualties. When do you think the Russian army can drive the Ukrainian army out of Kursk with these old weapons without occupying air superiority? Feel free to share your views in the comment area. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. It is very important to me. Thank you again for watching the video.